Hello there everyone, I'm Christina at CSLdesigns and today I'm going to show you how to make this twisted macrame bracelet, and this is what mine looks like here. So you can see we get this twisted effect in the pattern with how we're making the knots, and also I've alternated the size of them just to give a bit of interest. And in this case here I've chosen to use some beads that I've added in just to give a bit of extra embellishments, but you can also choose to leave them out or experiment with using other kinds of beads. And then on the end here I've made a loop closure along with a button on the other end, so it looks like that. And then it's going to make it nice and easy to wear, just using that button and loop closure, you can see there. And then it sits on your wrist nicely, and it's also quite a nice and elegant look to it. It's a bit delicate because it's not the chunkiest bracelet. Obviously you can make this different depending what materials that you choose to use, so you could use a thicker cord but the same technique and it will give you a kind of chunkier look to it and make the bracelet a bit bigger. So if you want to learn how to make this bracelet, then keep watching. So these are the materials that we're going to need. First of all, here we need our cord. Now I'm using this s-lon in a nice blue colour, but you can really use many different kinds of cord. Just be aware that different kinds might give you different results. And then the beads that I'm using are these 2mm rounds, and they're silver metal spacer beads, but you can really play around with what beads you're using and even use something like seed beads as long as they're quite small and they're going to fit along the edge. And then I have the Shank button here, and I've just chosen one with this Tree of Life design on it, and it's not too large as well, so it's going to fit nicely with the bracelet. And I'm just going to be using that to finish off the bracelet with. Now I always leave the material list down in the description box below there, so you can feel free to have a look, and also there's going to be any links that you might need. But otherwise, let's get all the materials ready and let's get started. And then we're going to need some lengths of our cord, and what I have here first of all is two lengths of about 1 meter and 30 centimeters each, and these are mainly going to be holding cords throughout. And then I have another length here of the same cord, and this is about 4 meters long. Now it's this long because this is going to really be the working cord throughout, so it's going to get used up a lot more. So then what I did here was I found the middle of all the cords and then put that midpoint together there. So obviously one of them is longer, so those ends are going to hang out longer than the other ones. But find where that midpoint is, and then I put a knot on there just to hold the cords together that I can also then put my T-pins down through. Because I'm going to be working with these throughout to also make it easier to work with. And I'm working on my project macrame board here as well. And the reason that I found the midpoint is because we need to start making a row of knots here across the middle of these cords that we can then turn into the loop, and then we're going to use the rest of the lengths for the rest of the bracelet. So what I'm then going to be doing here is making square knots to achieve that loop. So I'm going to be using these three lengths that I have first of all. I'm first going to make 1/2-ish of that length that we need, and then I'm going to flip it around and make the other half on the other side, just so we use up the lengths of the cord here somewhat evenly. But then separate your cords into 3. Like this, and make sure that the longest one is on one of the sides, because we need that to end up being the working cord when we get to the main piece. But then you just take that, so the other two here in my case are the shorter ones, and then you want to start making a square knot. So in my case I take my left one over the middle one, the right one goes over that, and then underneath both of them there in the middle, and then pull it up through the loop on the other side, and then you can pull it up. So this is the first half of a square knot, and then start from the other side. So put that over the holding cord, take the other one over that, underneath everything in the middle, and up through the loop on the opposite side. And then we can tighten this by just holding that holding cord down. And then there you have a full square knot. And then you just want to make a few of these. Like I said, get about half the length that you need of the row of square knots here to reach around basically the button that you're using. So also I'm going to be kind of measuring that throughout to make sure I get the right amount. Just keep making some square knots. So I now made the first half of the length here, and then what I've done is I've just taken it off the board so I can flip it around, and I've just undone that knot there. So obviously we can use these lengths now. So I'm just going to literally flip it around like that, and then make about an equal length on this side here. Now what you just got to pay attention to is once you flip it, we have to start with the cord from the opposite side. So on the first side here, I started from my left, and you'll be able to tell that with the cord that we need to start with is the one that's kind of going downwards, kind of behind the knot, and the other one is kind of going up and away. So I flip it around, and then it's opposite here. So just pay attention to that, but otherwise make about the same length, and obviously also check throughout that it's going to fit your button. So now that I have my full length here, then what I just want to do is double check and make sure it fits with my button. And how I like to do that is, first of all, we need to shape it into the loop. And you need to make sure that it stays flat so it doesn't come up like this and the sides of the knots are up and down, but that it actually stays flat. So all the cords stay next to each other. And also what I'm making sure to do is we need to make sure when we finally move on as well and we actually know we have the right size loop, is the long lengths of cord need to be on the outside. So when it's straight here facing away from you, so you have the shorter ones closer to you. But then otherwise just keep shaping it here. Bring the two ends of the knots together. And then to begin with, I'm just going to hold on to them because I'm just checking the button, which I then get and make sure I hold on tight so it doesn't open up. And then we just want to put it through to make sure it's going to fit. So we want to make sure that obviously there's space enough for it to fit through so you can actually get it through, but also you need to make sure it's not too big because then it might not be that secure when you wear it. And this looks just about right. So it goes through pretty comfortably, but it's not too large. So we have these knots in place. It's going to fit for the loop. Then we need to obviously connect them as well so it becomes a fastened loop. So what I've just done now is I've pinned it back onto my Project Macrame board here using these T-pins, and I just make sure to keep that loop shape that I want so the two ends meet up, and we have these cords now sitting right next to each other. And we then have the 4 inner cords here, so the 2 inner ones from either side. They are the short ones, so mainly going to be the holding cords throughout, and the outer one on either side here is the long ones. So they're going to mainly be the working cords and get used up the most. So we're now in the right position, and I'm going to attach the two sides together, so obviously the loop is going to completely stay in place. And I'm just going to first of all use these holding cords for that, so the short ones, because they are going to be used for knots some of the time, but just not nearly as much as the long working cords. So I'm going to take the very inner one from either side, ones that are right next to each other right in the middle there. Then I'm going to take my right one and cross that over my left one. So the one from the left is coming underneath, and that is then the first working cord, because we need to then make a knot around the holding cord with that. So around your finger, and then back underneath and through the loop. So we get a 6, a reverse 6 there, kind of looping around the other cord. Then I want to tighten this all the way up until it won't tighten any further really, because that then is going to be more or less a connection point for the two sides. And then do that again to make it a double half hitch. So around your finger and through the loop, and then tighten it. And then I'm going to take the same holding cord here and then bring the other cord from the left side out of those middle 4 underneath it, again towards the right. And now we also just need to make a double half hitch with that. So around your finger and through the loop, and then tighten that, just to continuing this row really that we just started out. And what we need to make sure to do as well is that this row of knots here kind of comes down at an angle and out to the side. So we've now made the first little row, and technically the loop is connected now. Then I'm going to take the outer cord of the 4 middle ones on the right side again. Last one of the 4 middle ones that we haven't used yet. And now bring that over towards the left as well, over the 2 working cords there. And then make a double half hitch with each of them. So basically we're going to be creating a row just underneath the other one. Just do one at a time. And you can start to see it build there. So there we go. So what we're basically doing here is going straight into the pattern from that loop. But that connection point is also actually part of the pattern. We're going to keep repeating that. But what I then just also want to do because of that is I want to add some beads. Obviously if you don't want to add beads you can leave them out, but I'm going to be adding a bead to each of the outer lengths of cords. So the long ones, just one on each side there, and let them drop all the way down. Just like that, just to add a little bit of embellishment. So I'm going to start working on one side at a time here, and I'm just going to start on my left side. It doesn't matter which one you start on. I'm just going to put the other ones out of the way for now. And I just put both the beads in there just to make sure that I don't forget before I get to the other side. And then we still have these 2 that are holding cords on this side. So the inner ones, the shorter ones, and the outer one here is the long one with the bead on. So we need to use that outer one with the bead on as the working cord. That means I need to bring it underneath the next one. So technically the third one out of these 3 on this side, bring it underneath that, and then you can see here as well how that bead is just going to sit just perfectly there in that little corner. I need to make sure that it stays, kind of gets trapped in that corner and it doesn't come and slips underneath like that. We just push it up there, then make a double half hitch around the holding cord and tighten it, and then that bead will also stay in place. And basically what we need to do now is create curves on both sides, obviously one at a time, and then bring the working cord underneath the next holding cord. So we made that first double half hitch, and we need to create those curves while we're making the knots here. So I'm going to start out with a double half hitch, but before completing it, so just tighten that first half of it. I'm not going to then tighten the second half in the same way. What I'm going to do is change direction now. I'm actually going to do it straight away, so bring it underneath the same holding cord. So I just made the first half of the double half hitch, now bringing it underneath the holding cord. So basically just swapped hands and then making the other half in the opposite direction technically. And then you hold the holding cord here, it starts to come a little bit more downwards to also get that curve in. So tighten that. Then you take it underneath the outer holding cord and make another full double half hitch around there. So tighten that, and the other half. Just got a little knot there by the looks of it. So just need to undo that. So there we go. And then grab that holding cord again. And then tighten that. And then you can maybe slowly start to see there's a bit of a curve in there, but it's going to get more obvious when we finish off this row. Then we need to change direction again, so bring the same working cord underneath, the same holding cord, swap hands again, and then make a double half hitch. As you can see, I'm kind of constantly swapping direction of how I'm making the knots. So this is a full double half hitch. Then go underneath the inner holding cord and start the double half hitch. So make the first half first of all, but we're going to now repeat what we just did in the first one around this holding cord. So make that first half and then bring it underneath again straight away in the opposite direction to then make the other half with the opposite hand and then tighten it. And it's doing that, basically changing direction within the knot, that helps create that curve. And then bring it underneath the outer one to make a double half hitch. And this is a full one, and then we can really start to see we get that curve in place. So basically the row was first going out towards the side at an angle, then it's curving around to come back in towards the middle. So this is the one side done for now. I'm then going to put these out of the way and then move to the other side. And basically we want to do the exact same thing, but obviously it's just mirrored because we're on the other side. So I'm going to take the outer one with the bead on, that's the working cord, and then bring that underneath the middle one of the three, and then make a full double half hitch. Make sure that bead stays in that little corner. As you can see, they're going to be sitting right opposite each other there. And then this knot tightens that bead in place. Bring it underneath the inner holding cord. Make the first half of the knot. And then bring it underneath the same holding cord straight away. So change direction within the knot. And then tighten that and slowly start to bring the holding cord further down, also to help create that curve. Then bring it under the outer one to make a full double half hitch. Another one here, before we then can change direction. So bring it underneath the same holding cord to make another full double half hitch. So on the outer one we're always making a full double half hitch, whereas the inner one that I'm changing direction within the knot. So that's obviously what creates that curve. So bring it underneath the inner one now, and make the first half, to then change direction again. And then tighten that, and then you can start to see that curve on this side as well. But we then go underneath the outer one and make the final full double half hitch on this side. So just like that, and then this is what it looks like. So we now have these two rows that are obviously going away from the middle, but then curving around to come back in towards the middle, and that makes these holding cords here kind of wanting to naturally cross over each other. So now we're going to use these holding cords to actually attach them together in the middle. So we're going to use them as the working cords for now. So that's why they do get used for knots a little bit throughout, but not as much as obviously the working cords are. It's literally just going to be for the connection points here. So you just want to start on one side, and just like in the beginning, it doesn't really matter which one you bring over the other, just make sure you stay consistent throughout. So because I brought my right one over my left one to begin with, I'm going to keep doing that throughout, and that's also just what comes naturally to me. So I'm just going to separate out these 4 cords, the 2 inner ones, the one on either side there, I'm going to start with, and then take my right one over my left one, and then bring them together there. You can see we're going to get this shape, almost kind of twist. Then the one that's coming underneath, that's coming from the left side, I'm going to make a full double half hitch with, just like that, and tighten that. And now technically they're tightened together as well, the 2 rows, but obviously we want to use the rest of them as well. Then use the other one from the left side, also bring it underneath, make a double half hitch, like that. Then we need to just bring over the last remaining one that we haven't used yet, so the one from the right, to create the row right underneath it. So basically we're repeating exactly what we did right there in the beginning, the very first connection point, you could say. And then use one of the working cords at a time. To then make a double half hitch and complete this connection point here. So there we go. We now have our first little twist in place. So then the next section here is going to basically be made using the same technique, but we're just going to make it slightly different. So first of all, before I start any knots, I'm just going to add my beads, 1 to each of the outer cords there. So the long working cords, same as in the beginning. And then otherwise we need to start in the same way. So like before, I'm just going to work on one side at a time, and I just start on my left one here. Then I take the long outer cord with the bead on underneath the next one. And then we need to start making double half hitches again. So make sure the bead gets trapped in that corner. Make a double half hitch, a full one, so just like this, and then go underneath the next holding cord. Now this is when the first one we made the first double half hitch on the inner one, changing direction within the knot. We're not going to do that just yet because I want this section to be larger. So I'm going to make a full double half hitch on this one as well. So like that. Then I'm going to bring it underneath. So change direction. And right now I'm just working with my knots, so the rows here are going out to the side but at an angle, and just following the direction that they're basically naturally going in. So double half hitch, then bring it underneath the next one, so the outer holding cord. And then do a double half hitch around that. Always basically using the same working cord here. Then change direction to come back in towards the middle again. So double half hitch, a full one around the outer one, and then underneath the inner holding cord. And now this is the point where I actually want to change direction within the knot. So I want to add my curve to this point here, so that means make the first half and then change direction straight away before then swapping hands and then making the other half, and then tighten that. And then also slowly start to hold the holding cords there more downwards, so it helps that curve. Bring the working cord underneath the outer holding cord and then make a full double half hitch. Like that. Change direction. You can see we have a bit of a curve in there now because the holding cords are going straight down now instead of out to the side at an angle. So a double one, a full one here underneath the inner holding cord, and again we need to change direction within this knot straight away. So make the first half and then bring it underneath swap hands to then make the other half of it and tighten it. And then you can see that that holding cord is going to be going more in towards the middle now. So again, we really get that curve in the rows. Bring it underneath the outer holding cord to then make the full double half hitch. And then we just gotta basically finish off these rows by making straight lines just like we did in the beginning. So change direction, make a double half hitch. Now just continue these rows in the direction that they're going in now. Basically back in towards the middle, underneath the inner one to make a full double half hitch. Tighten that. Just like that. Change direction again, because what we need to make sure to do is for the working cord to end up on the outside. So always on the outer side of this group of cords. Change directions, make a double half hitch, just a full one. Tighten that. And obviously we need this half of the rows to be the same, equal to the first half. So it becomes nice and symmetrical. Make a double half hitch around the outer one. And there we go. So this is now the rows of knots here with a curve in on this side. And then you basically just want to repeat the exact same thing on the other side. And obviously it's just mirrored because we're working on this side. So you just take the outer cord with the bead on and then start making your knots by bringing it underneath the middle one. Make your double half hitch and then start by making straight rows and then put that curve in the middle, repeating the exact same steps as I showed you there until you bring that side down to basically meet with the other one, and you have the two holding cords on either side wanting to naturally cross over each other. So I now made the other side as well here, so you can see it's the same on both sides. And what I've also just done is I've added some more T-pins to my work just to help hold it fastened. It makes it easier to work with, and I'm going to keep doing that throughout as well, so as I'm moving downwards. But then to reach this connection point here, we just obviously need to connect the two sides together, and we just do that in the exact same way as before. So take the two middle ones of all the four holding cords there. The right one crosses over the left one because that's what I've done all the other time. So to make sure we kind of get this twisted look to it, the one that's coming underneath from the left side, make a double half hitch around the holding cord, and then take the other one from that left side and also make a full double half hitch. So again, you can just see the only time we're really using the holding cords, the short ones, for making knots is at these connection points here. And take the remaining cord out of the four, the one on the right side that we haven't used yet, and make a double half hitch with each of the working cords around that. And you can see we just get this effect of the rows of knots continuing and kind of creating this twist look to it. So the right one is always crossing over the left one. Obviously how it looks, it's not actually doing that, but just how we make the knots make it look that way. And then now what we're going to do is, again obviously, because we need to make the next section, add a bead to either one of the outer cords, so the long ones. Add a bead to that, and then you just want to make the next section in the same way as the first one. So that's a little one. So I'm basically just going to keep alternating like this. So the next one is going to be a small one, and then the one after that is going to be a large one here again. So I'm just going to alternate between them until I reach the length that I want. So I now reached the other end here, and I've just finished my piece on one of the small sections, and then I'm not going to be using the working cords anymore. I'm just going to use these ones here to now attach my button. So first of all, I just want to create a few square knots just to make a bit of spacing from that last section until the button starts. So the two middle ones here that are coming right from the point, I'm going to use them as the holding cords, and the other two, the one on either side, are going to be the working cords. And you just make a square knot around both of those holding cords there. And then just tighten that all the way up, right below that point. Make the other half to get a full square knot. So like that, and I just want to make a couple of square knots there before I then add in my button. So now in my case here, I made 3 square knots before I now bring in my button and add that. Now in this case here, because this has this kind of image on it, I want it to face in a certain direction. If you're not bothered about that, or if you have another one that's symmetrical all around, then all you can do is that loop on the back, you just take your holding cords and put your cords there through the loop and then push the button all the way up to sit below the knots there, and then you just use the working cords to bring them underneath the button and then cage that in place by making another 1 or 2 square knots. But because this I want facing in this direction, which means when I flip it over, the loop there is facing this way, which obviously we can't do in the same way then, just bring the holding cords through because it's going sideways. So I'm just going to show you how I do that instead, in case you also have a button that you want to use like that. So what I'm going to do is actually separate out the 2 holding cords. So just the one furthest to the left, go to the left side, and the one furthest to the right, go out to the right one, and basically have them join up with the working cords there. And then I grab my button here, and then obviously make sure I hold it in the right direction, and then what I need to do is take the 2 cords on the one side, so these are from the left, they're going to be going through the button from the left towards the right. So I'm just going to take them through that hole, and both of them together. So just get them both through there, and then just pull them through a little bit so they don't fall out. And then the ones from the right here, I'm going to also bring through the hole but in the opposite direction. So that's from right to left. Again, get them through. Both of them as well. Out to the opposite side. And then we just need to grab hold of them. And then you can literally just grab the cords on either side and pull them tight. And as you can see, obviously the button wants to kind of flip around a little bit, but we just push it all the way up there. So pull it tight like that. And then we just make sure that the button stays sitting facing this way instead of facing down when we're going to make the knot here. And then what we're going to do is separate the cords back out again, because we need to get our holding cords back and then the working cords back. So you just bring 2 into the middle, and then you use the other 2, one on either side, to make a square knot around them, just in the exact same way as before. And before tightening that first half, I just want to make sure that button is pushed all the way up, and I kind of pull down on the holding cords there, and then tighten the knot, and then make the other half to make it more secure. So just to make sure that button is going to sit nicely and be as fastened as possible. And then you can see it kind of stays in place now. So what I then want to do is just make a couple more square knots on this bottom side of the knot, of the button, sorry. Just to make sure we don't just make one knot, it's going to make it more secure. So just make a couple of knots here, and then all that's left to do will be to finish off the ends of the cord. So now I have my button attached here. Then I'm just going to flip it around to the back. To finish off the ends of the cord, because I'm using a synthetic cord, I can just use a lighter to cinch them down. But if you're using a natural cord, then you're going to have to use glue. So you just put a bit of glue where the cords are coming out from, the ones on top here, but then also these ones on the end, and then cut off the excess. But like I said, if you're using a synthetic cord like me and you want to cinch them down, then what you want to do is finish them all off in the same way. I'm going to get a pair of scissors out, and then you want to cut off the excess, but leave a length of about 1 to 2 millimeters, and then cut that off. So we just get that short little length. Then I'm going to grab my lighter. Now obviously be careful because this is a naked flame and it does get hot. But then you just want to singe down the end. So basically melt it and then push it in. You can also use the actual lighter to do that if you don't want to touch it with your finger. But it's such a short space of time that it doesn't really get that hot, I don't find anyway. So just like that, and it seals it in place to make sure the knots don't come undone, but also it makes it nice and seamless. So finish off all the other ones in the same way. So now I've finished off the cords there, then this is my finished bracelet. And it's ready to wear. So you get this really nice and delicate pattern all the way up with the alternating sizes of the little sections there. And obviously the loop and the button makes it for a nice and easy closure. So you just put it on and put the button right through the loop, and then there you have your bracelet. So it gives a really nice and delicate look when you wear it, and obviously choosing different color combinations can make it look very different. And also materials, so whether it's a different size cord and different size beads, So it's fun to experiment with as well. You can really get some different results. But I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial here. Do check out my channel. I have loads of other tutorials, and also if you don't want to miss future tutorials, subscribe and also tick that notification bell so you don't miss any of my future videos and tutorials. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching this one, and I'll see you in the next one.